Okay, so this is Love and Marriage Huntsville season 7, episode 11. Kiki and Tiffany are at Stormy's house. They're having this conversation. I really don't care. Um, Kiki asks, "Why do you feel that I was coming for you?" Tiffany tries to explain that she said at the what she said at the spa. Kiki said that she was given information from Tisha saying that Tiffany was bashing Kiki. You know what? I said this before. I don't believe Tisha and I don't believe Kiki. Tisha and Kiki are the same. They're the same person. They're the same person. Different leaf. One side of the leaf versus the other. They're unique. Uniquely the same, right? The only difference, I don't know what the difference is. I no, I don't know what the difference. Because the thing is that I will say what the difference could be is that Tisha is messy. And when you confront her on it, she don't stand in her mess. She can back up. And she tries to do, and the thing that I think this is the thing that bothers me the most out of Tisha, which is why you won't get me to be excited, get me to be she's my sword, but she's the kind of sword that I would not hang out with because I do not like the idea that she stirs mess and then she hides her hand. And then she tries to present herself as holier than thou when we all know that you are not, things are not going well. Look, you don't have to tell everybody your business. I don't tell, I mean, when I first got married, I was a lot more open with what the ups and downs of what's going on in my marriage because I felt alone. Now I'm at this point where I don't tell a lot of people about what goes on in my marriage. You know why? Because nobody wants to hear it unless I'm walking out the door. So you go find a therapist. But here's the deal. I wouldn't go on a national television show. And the thing is, you would get more people who would understand you better if you would say stuff like, me and Marcel, we've had some up and downs. Um, and such and such happened. Like in this next episode that's going to come out tomorrow, he's talking about he went on a trip to Africa before with no notice. This is not the United States. There's shots, there's a process. You just can't go and pick up a plane, not him. You cannot go and be like, ooh, I'm gonna fly to Africa. Oh, when? Tomorrow. There would have been a plan. And then now he's flying. He went out of the country again, just on a whim, and leave your wife and kids. No planning again. See, clearly, because Letitia is playing it off, it makes it where her audience can't connect to her. Kiki is playing in our face too. We know you up here keep talking about how much you're over drugs or whatever. Fine. But see, it feels like there's other things that are happening because we know that when you sit here and talk about Tiffany, you don't know what happened between me and all the backstory between me and Tisha. You know what? Let me pause you right there. Everybody got a cousin that there's a backstory to. Me and my cousin, pick one. I only have two that I have a backstory with because those are the two people that I'm the closest with. I don't want, I mean, stop alluding to it on the show if you're not going to tell us. And to say, my mama and my mama and your mama, they didn't get along because you live in this place and you do. And, if it wasn't for regular TV, I will tell you that we wouldn't care. But because this is t like this kind of conversation would make a lot of sense amongst interfamily and your girlfriends, but I'm gonna let you know right now, us as viewers, we only need to hear this one good story once, but this whole she felt she was better than me and she thought that she just the general public's not going to buy it. The reason why is because we all have that in our families. Does that mean that I am going to mistreat my cousin because of this? No. So this is why you think I'm going to throw stuff in my cousin's face because of this? No. This is why the audience is like, there's more to this story. And since you're not willing to tell us, and Letitia's not willing to tell us, we are frustrated and we have now checked out and don't want to hear about it. So with that being said, Ace Stormy makes a comment saying Ace is a bodyguard. I get that people feel this way, and a lot of people say this. And the only reason why I am not co-signing on this is because as a person who, with my first child, I struggled nursing. My second child, I did not. And I'm letting you know that I took my child with me. I took my first child with me a lot, but I took my second child with me a lot more because I had my own company and I wasn't working in the office. And I was working in the office by myself more than I was when I had my first child. So I was teaching, but I was teaching more online, and I was only teaching out of the house maybe a few hours a week. And then I also was not in school. I was writing my dissertation. I wasn't taking classes like I was with my first child. So I left my first child a lot more than my second. So if it meant for me to hang out somewhere, 99.99% of the time, my baby was with me. And nursing is, uh, as much as you want to pump, nursing helps bring your milk in even more than pumping every hour or every hour and a half. So with that being said, did she have to bring Ace? Probably not. But I need to know what time it was, because depending on the time, I like if it's going to be around his nursing time, that's my time that I have to be somewhere, and I know that I can bring my baby, I'm bringing my baby. I'm gonna be honest. I was even the kind of person who, if people would watch my child and they would sit outside and I'd be inside, my child would be near me, close to me. And so I don't like the statement that's saying Ace is a bodyguard. I see it as my baby can come. Okay, then my baby's here. Because I now if the baby was one, no, 2 years old or older, then I'd agree. But a newborn, yeah, no, my baby is attached to me from the hip. So you want to have a conversation with me? Okay, yeah, we can have a conversation, but my baby's gonna be right here on my breast. So anyway, um, I think Tiffany makes a comment. She's saying that she needs to consider who she is a friend to or in her life at this point. And I think that's a legit thing, only especially when you have less time for yourself because you have a new baby. You do make those kind of decisions even more so. The fact that I don't have time for between work, between all my kids are kind of older. So between work, between other responsibilities, I don't really have time to myself much. So, and I've made that comment. My husband hates it when I say it, but I've had this conversation. I was like, look, if I'm going to build relationships and hang out with people, I'm going to hang out with my own folks because I don't see them enough. Like I may see them a couple times a year versus me trying to make new, trying to have closer relationships with people that I don't mind, but they're not my ride or die. So why would I don't have enough time to do anything as of right now. So why not be with people that I know? So I get Tiffany even, and she apologized to Kiki. And you could see the writing on the wall that she was going to be leaving because you don't like these people. Okay, Chris Fletcher and Martell. Chris Fletcher's like, I am so happy that you moved. I don't blame him because home dude takes advantage of everybody. They talked about the dinner. Martell claims that Nell was disrespectful. Chris was like, was she disrespectful or was she honest? That part. See, Martell does not want to hear honesty. I'm sorry, y'all. Mm, he doesn't want to hear honesty. He wants to hear that he did everything perfect and that it's Mel that is the problem. Okay, yeah, whatever. Um, and then Chris says that she's very passionate when she's talking. He thinks it's okay to check a woman who's disrespectful to him, even if it is Chris's wife. I think Chris is trying to still stay his friend. Um, but I think Chris, I think Martell is on Chris's last nerve. Mhm. Martell thinks it, yeah, yeah. He doesn't want to talk about him cheating anymore. Of course not, because you fumbled a bag. I do love the fact that Chris was like, why you keep saying Melody Hope? And he's like, yeah, but we didn't pick a side. He's like, we're not Melody Hope, we're not on Melody or your side. We're in the middle. He's like, we are Team Rogers and we are Team Hope. So Martell's upset that she changed her name, and he's like, well, I hope she's happy with the new name. Chris is like, it ain't a new name. And then he asks, Martell's like, well, she didn't have, she didn't do anything with the other name. I'm sorry, sir. She was born with Rogers. She had honor rolls. When she pledged, she was a Rogers. When she was in college, she was a Rogers. Rogers is on her college degree. Rogers is on her teaching certificate. And so she accomplished things. And we all know that Melody is the one that was the brains behind the whole. He's upset that he feels that Melody is, when Martell's like, oh, the new name, Chris is like, it ain't new. And he feels that there's an attachment that is over and that she's doing everything at his, she is doing things like this name change ceremony to humiliate him at his expense. Says the man who had a whole baby with another woman and allowed his mistress, well, he got her pregnant twice. Melody just had a baby and you had another woman pregnant during the pandemic. And somehow Mel is humiliating you at your expense. Got it. And destroying, and she's doing this for clout to destroy him. Right. And he says, I hope she did it for the right reasons. The whole thing is that now, as she lives through her life, she is going as Melody Cherie, Melody Rogers, and she's going to be known as Melody Cherie. There's no more business attachment. There's no more claim on what he's doing. And I love that for her. Keisha thinks that she's pregnant. because she says something's wrong with her. She's throwing up everywhere, nauseous all the time, gaining weight. Sounds like you're depressed and possibly having anxiety attacks, but I do think that you should go to the doctor. So they have this Yanni steam, and I was supposed to do a Yanni steam, and then I was like, well, I was I was kind of concerned about the smell. I smell perfect, but I just didn't know. Like, I feel like that is so private and personal. Anyway, so Tisha doesn't want to talk about Kiki. That's fine. Um, Kimmy is being as sweet as pie. Tisha is crying essentially because she feels like she's overwhelmed. I feel like she is, it seems as if Marceau is forcing her to be taking still the same responsibilities as being a stay-at-home mom. Plus, so she's like a single married mother, plus working. And, I think that being a single mom is fine. And you can get in the routine of being a single mom, right? There's a routine that you're having. It sucks when you have a routine that's going and you're married and you're looking over at this dude. What you doing? Nothing. You're doing nothing for this house because you think that working is your responsibility. But you got these kids that also need the two of us because I'm working too. And he's probably doing the pushback, but you don't need to work. And it appears that if she doesn't work, she doesn't have her own independence, and you're so dependent that it makes you really hard to decide if you want to stay or leave. It makes you weaker as a person. So you'll endure him leaving to go to a different country whenever he wants to. She saw a life coach. He is now saying he wants to be a marriage counselor, and she's discovering that she's being short with her children. Everybody notices that her attitude is changing, and it makes sense. You get frustrated. Chris and Chris Jr. talk. Chris is like, it sounds like he's depressed. Chris Jr. says that he's going to the gym or the studio. He's not sleeping. I wrote down, this is the reason why we need goals. I find that young men at the age of 24, 25, they really do go through this quarter life crisis. It's a thing. I know when I first heard about it, I was in my early 20s and I was seeing someone and he claimed that he was going through a quarter life crisis. And I was like, yeah, but you haven't done anything. You just graduated from college. You're working at Rouse. And what else were you doing? And then he eventually started working at 24-hour fitness. And I was like, but you haven't done anything to have a quarter life crisis. I mean, and the number of people that I dated who was around that 25-year-old age for men, it was a struggle for them. So I think that having goals, seeing a therapist, having a journal, being able to kind of write down and seeing tangible goals and accomplishing those would be really good for a young man to kind of work their way through, because otherwise they're going to be just shiftless until they turn 30 and then they figure things out and get activated. But that's 5 years of wasted life of just going through the motions. Tiffany talking to her husband, Lewis, they talked about the talk that she had with Kiki. She was talking about a lot of things that they feel like they're dealing with mentally. She's not herself. I've talked about this before in regards to postpartum. I still am kind of annoyed at the reaction that people have. I don't like Tiffany, but um, I don't like the what did you expect conversation because I do feel that uh, you can't expect it. And when like I said, when I had my second one, I felt nothing, and my son did pop out. My routine didn't change much. I was doing everything, and I actually increased what I was doing. So it didn't change anything. My first one is the thing that changed so much. So there was no shock. So there's nothing could have prepared me for the shock to the system. Um, she didn't realize she was going to be okay. I get when she was like, I don't like my body. I don't like my body at the moment, and I could do more, but I am fighting depression. Um, and so and I do blame myself for not doing more because I know I could. Um, they were both talking about the show and how you have cheating out accusations and asking is reality TV good for them? And they're like, look, we need to stay married. Our marriage is more important. And since our marriage is more important, we need to bounce. And I think that's a good thing. And with that being said, goodbye.